The modern web is built on a foundation of invisible, cascading trust. Every time you open a website, your browser doesn't just load the text and images you see on the screen. In the background, it fetches dozens, sometimes hundreds, of tiny snippets of code from servers scattered across the globe. These scripts power everything from your shopping cart to the analytics that track your behavior, and for over a decade, one of the most trusted names in that ecosystem was a service called Polyfill.io. To understand the catastrophic supply chain attack that unfolded in 2024, we have to first understand what made this service so uniquely dangerous. It was, quite literally, an open door built into the infrastructure of the internet. Polyfill.io was created to solve a headache that plagued web developers for years. The web is a messy place. Some users browse with the latest, fastest browsers, while others are stuck on outdated software that doesn't understand modern web standards. Developers wanted to use the latest features, but they didn't want to break their sites for users on older browsers. Enter the Polyfill, a clever piece of code that detects what a browser can and cannot do. If your browser was too old to understand a modern feature, the Polyfill.io script would quietly download a patch to fill that gap. It was elegant, it was free, and it was widely adopted. Millions of websites, from small blogs to massive corporate entities, simply linked to the service, trusting that it would always deliver the helpful code it promised. The trouble began when the original creators moved on, and the domain was sold to a company called Funnel. At the time, many in the developer community didn't pay much attention. Domain sales happen every day. But this sale effectively handed the keys to a vital piece of web infrastructure over to an unknown third party. It wasn't a hack in the traditional sense, there was no breaking of firewalls or brute forcing of passwords. The attackers didn't need to break in because they had bought the front door. They owned the domain, they controlled the server, and they had the power to serve whatever code they wanted to the millions of websites that were still calling out to that server for their daily updates. In early 2024, security researchers began to notice something strange. The Polyfill.io service, which had been a model of reliability for years, started behaving erratically. It wasn't just providing polyfills anymore. It was injecting malicious scripts into websites across the world. The attack was sophisticated and highly targeted. It wouldn't hit every visitor. Instead, it was programmed to detect certain conditions, like whether the user was on a mobile device or if they were coming from a specific referral link. If the conditions were met, the script would silently redirect the user to malicious, phishing, or scam websites. It was a digital, man-in-the-middle attack, and it was happening on a global scale, executed by the very service developers trusted to keep their websites running smoothly. The scale of the fallout was difficult to comprehend. Because the service was a dependency for so many sites, the attackers had effectively compromised a massive slice of the internet's surface area. We are talking about millions of websites, including high-traffic portals, government pages, and educational institutions, all unwittingly acting as vectors for malware. Every time a user visited one of these trusted websites, the Polyfill.io script would fire, potentially exposing the user to everything from credential harvesting phishing pages to invasive crypto scams. It was a wake-up call for the entire software development industry, exposing the fragility of a web ecosystem that relies on blind trust in third-party content delivery networks. The reaction from the tech giants was swift and frantic. Companies like Cloudflare, Fastly, and Google, who provide the backbone of the internet, took the rare step of actively warning their customers to purge the service from their codebases immediately. They scrambled to set up secure mirrors, safe copies of the original, clean code, to give developers a way to transition away from the compromised domain without breaking their websites. It was a massive, collective firefighting effort to excise a tumor that had been allowed to grow in the very center of the web. But the Polyfill.io crisis taught us a lesson that goes far beyond one bad domain sale. It exposed the danger of blind dependency. For years, developers had been using tools without ever verifying what those tools were actually doing or who controlled them. The industry had become accustomed to plug and play efficiency, forgetting that when you link to a remote script, you are essentially inviting a stranger into your house and giving them the authority to change the locks whenever they want. This is the essence of a supply chain attack. It exploits the trust we place in the software supply chain, The libraries, the plugins, the CDNs, and the APIs that we use to build our digital world. The aftermath saw a surge in the adoption of security measures that had long been ignored. Developers started implementing Subresource Integrity, or SRI, a security feature that allows a website to tell a browser, only run this script if the code matches this exact fingerprint. If the script is tampered with by even a single character, the browser will refuse to load it. It is a powerful defense against this exact type of attack, and yet, before the polyfill incident, it was far from universal. The crisis also forced a reckoning regarding how companies manage their digital assets. If you are going to rely on a third-party service, you must account for the risk of that service changing hands, shutting down, or turning malicious. Reflecting on the polyfill.io story, it is clear that we have entered an era where digital hygiene is no longer optional. The web is no longer a collection of static, isolated pages, it is a dynamic, interconnected fabric of code, and every thread in that fabric represents a potential point of failure.